Very warm welcome to the show. Today, does taking your husband's name make you his chattel? Or does it just show the world that you really are a committed couple? Author Ruth begrudgingly gave up her maiden name for Mr. Right and ended up feeling as if she'd lost her real identity. But journalist Kitty loves the fact that she and her husband are now united in name. And lovely Liz McClarnon is with us. Hello, sweetheart.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
How are you
Thanks
too?
for coming. And Ben's here with our sofa surfers to introduce us, Ben.
Yes, Vanessa, our sofa surfers today are three geezers from London. We have Tony, Wayne and Paul. They've got so much to say, Vanessa. So much.
But first, you're a bit bored, you fancy a change. Dyeing your hair can transform your look and a new hair colour make you feel like a different person. Chorus Helen Flanagan debuted her new blonde hairstyle recently, saying she felt happier than ever being a blonde. But if your hair colour owes more to the bottle than to your genes, what are you trying to say? Do blondes really have more fun? As if I need to ask that question. Joining me, behaviour expert Dr. Pam Spur, author and redhead Ruth Sabaton, and blonde addict Alex Painter. Hello, everybody. Let's start with Dr. Pam. I don't know if you're any more of a genuine blonde than I am, Dr. Pam, and I'm too polite to ask.
Oh, I put the highlights in. Yes,
Yeah.
I would be a very mousy blonde, and I don't think that suits my character.
So when you put the highlights in your hair, or when the hairdresser does, is the hairdresser giving you characteristics that you don't really have? Do you live up to your hair and your behaviour?
I think a hair colour, like, say, lightening your hair, just kind of lifts your mood and lifts your spirit. And I think inwardly we all have this ideal of what we are and our personality. And it's a two-way street, because those people who meet you, they have expectations for how you're going to behave, and you then kind of live up to those. So it's this sort of two-way interaction between their expectations and your own. And it's a very potent force. You know, we change very much depending on what hue we select. You've got the Hollywood glamour puss blonde.
Are you trying to say this isn't natural? Is that what you're trying to say? I wasn't born this way?
The sort of sassy blonde. Think of someone like Jennifer Aniston. She's much more the sweet girl next door, honey blonde. So even within a shade, you get different behaviour from depending on that shade.
I'm going to bring Liz McClarnon in here. I don't mean to, pin you down on this, but I don't think you were blonde when I first met you, were you?
No, definitely not. No.
You're a born-again blonde, does that mean?
Yes. And it's kind of like it was definitely a choice for me, and it was, like as the highlights sort of you get more and more highlights, you go blonder and blonder. But it does, I feel brighter being blonde, and that doesn't mean, I've got a lot of friends that are brunettes. It doesn't mean anything against that. Actually, for me personally, I feel better.
Okay, let's go to Alex here. A devoted blonde, almost a fanatical blonde.
Yes, I used to have a few highlights when I was a kid and a few put through like when I was 18, 19. But then I think as they said, there's something addictive about being blonde, and I think that the more you go blonde, the more you try to...
Completely agree with you. Because every time you look at yourself, you don't look quite blonde enough. You just think a bit more, like Goldie Hawn and asking for filler, and that film, fill me up a bit more. Just it's the same with being blonde. You think it's winter, I'll go a bit more blonde. It's summer, I'll go a bit... Yeah?
No, definitely.
Yeah,
and so since I've started doing it myself as well, it's so easy just to go a little bit too blonde and come in with that
platinum. Is there such a thing as too blonde? You can never be too rich, too thin, or too blonde, surely?
I think you can have white hair, which is... You've gone too far when it starts to hit that. But
when you arrived at university, just tell us what you looked like then.
So I had quite mousy browny hair with a few highlights put through it, and then I started to have... In fact, that's when I was just out of university.
Oh, that's not exactly mousy, but it looks like raven black from here.
I thought that was mousy brown when I saw it.
Right.
Whereas I had a few blonde... Gosh, I look completely different.
Yeah, you do look very different.
So I had a few put through it, and then, as you say, you go more and more blonde, and you start to have more and more of a... You start to think it lifts, as Pam was saying, it lifts your mood, it makes you feel a lot more confident in yourself, and you just can't go back.
Do women respond to you differently as a blonde?
A little bit. Men more so, I think.
Interesting research showed that actually blondes earn something like 2% more than their sort of brunette and red-headed sisters at work. So it's interesting that we do have that impression, but when you look across our national earnings, we... 3 women earn more than you, I'm afraid.
Wow. Moving on swiftly.
Let's go to those lads, Ben, on the sofa with you.
Wayne, what do you think about blondes? I think there's obviously a stigma around fake blondes. I mean, my wife is a top hairstylist, and obviously what happens is women will come into the shop and have to have their hair done every 2 weeks, to cover up the roots. There's nothing worse than that. I mean, Vanessa, you might be able to understand that.
Yeah.
What, as in going in?
Having to go in every
Well, because when you have your roots done, you feel like you're going back to your real self as a blonde. It's the bit, whereas the roots are beginning to come through now, I don't feel like that's the real me. The real me, of course, is blonde. My soul is blonde, obviously.
I think for me it's more like a style thing, because for me, being, you know, getting into the industry quite young, everyone knows I'm not blonde, so when I get a few roots, I kind of like that. I don't want to be the totally white, like cover it up kind of blonde. I want to be, I have sort of like, you know, a bit of texture, and that's how I like it.
So a bit of edge to your blonde.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, wearing a bright red dress. It's just something different, I guess.
Not very attention-seeking with your white blonde hair, your red dress, your understated character.
Lovely too.
Yeah, we've got Rachel on the phone. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Vanessa.
You're convinced that blondes have more fun, and you're busy proving it.
Absolutely, yes. Being blonde definitely reflects my true personality and people's reactions to me at work and in the street.
Now, you would know that because you've tried various other colours, Rachel.
Yes, I have, Vanessa. I was born blonde and went a bit mousy throughout my teens, but basically it wasn't until I had blonde hair that my luck changed. I hit 30, and after a few bad hair disasters along the way, as the pictures can see, people not only were more friendly and accepted me more, but my work opportunities got better.
What do you do, if you don't mind telling us?
Well, I've done various jobs over the years, and now I work as a secretary in a medical clinic. But also, what happened is, in my 30s, once I became blonde, through a friend, I was put on the books as a part-time model. And then, out of nowhere, like, my internet personality grew. But I think as a blonde, it definitely reflects why people are interested in, say, the fitness side of me as a real woman working in the real world. But when I was in my 20s with black hair, people were too scared to approach me. I was working at the time, I think, as a reporter. I was very depressed and shut myself off from people because the black gothic look reflected my moody, dark personality. But I think that definitely in the workplace, being blonde is definitely more me.
Well, just go to Ben's sofa surface to see how they respond to all those different photographs of Rachel in her different incarnations.
What did you think? Tony, what did you think of her photos? I think she looks better blonde, I must say that.
Yeah, well, I think it all depends on the individual. I read a study last year about Dr. Hans Jürgens, German scientist, did a study. He put 2 advertisements in local newspapers, one blonde and one brunette, 25-year-olds, and just to see the response that he'd get. And apparently the brunette was the one they wanted to be intimate with, and the blonde was the one they wanted to start a family with.
Really?
I think you have to be intimate to start a family, don't you? Let's just bring it. I can't think of any other way of doing it unless you use some kind of petri dish. Let's bring Dr. Pam in on this. So essentially, I mean, there'll be people watching this show thinking, well, you know, I've never given being blonde a whirl, and should I? And what do you think?
Well, I think if you're going through a period of change, it's an excellent way to start that period of change and kickstart it with a new hair color, whether it's blonde or going red or brunette. I mean, a lot like taking, say, Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
She'd been blonde for all these years. She's just separated from her husband 2 years. She's gone this gorgeous Titian color. It signals a new you, a new start. So whichever direction you want to take that, blonde or the more serious and sophisticated brunette or the fiery redhead, it's really an excellent way of sort of showing the world you're ready for something
no
new.
No pigeonholing, Alex, of course. I mean, no stereotyping of fiery redhead and light-headed blonde and ditzy old blonde and a serious, sophisticated brunette. I mean, if you go for a serious job, are you going to keep your hair that way?
I think so, yeah, because I think it does bring out the bits of personality that you want people to see you as, and I think that in many ways it gives you the confidence to really go for the job that you want. And obviously you wouldn't go for a job that would require you to be a different way to how you are.
Okay, have we managed, Ruth, to talk you out of gingerdom or not?
Absolutely not. I just think you blondes, you just have a better press, that's it.
Thanks to Dr. Pam, Ruth, Alex and our caller Rachel. Liz McClellan staying with us, and after the break, Kitty says when she married she was proud to take her beloved's name. Author Ruth says losing her maiden name was like losing her whole identity. So should you take your husband's name after marriage? Before that, though, Laurie Reid with the first half of today's astrological predictions. We'll see you in a few minutes.